Hello and welcome to Movie Central, the place to talk about movies, TV shows based on movies, toys based on movies, games based on movies, and rides based on movies. I'm your host, Mr. CCS, and this is my pet gorilla, George. Sequels. For those of you who don't know, and that is a very big if, sequels are the continuations of stories. That, of course, means movies, which have stories, have continuations. We have movies like Son of Kong, Aliens, Jaws 2, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, among a bunch of other movies that I don't need to talk about until I do official reviews of them. Stay tuned. Now, most sequels are considered inferior to the originals. However, there are very big exceptions. And this movie that I'm about to cover is one of those movies that is a sequel that is considered by many to be the best sequels of all time and is also considered to be better than the original. I am, of course, talking about Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back, or Star Wars Episode 5 The Empire Strikes Back. You get it. Alright, let's talk about it. The film concerns struggles of the Rebel alliance against the Galactic Empire raging on throughout the galaxy. During the film, Han Solo, played once again by Harrison Ford, Chewbacca, played by Peter Mayhew once again, and Princess Leia Organa, played once again by Carrie Fisher, are being pursued across space by Darth Vader, played again by David Prowse and James Earl Jones, and his elite forces. Meanwhile, Luke Skywalker, played again by Mark Hamill, begins his major Jedi training with Yoda, played by Frank Oz, after an instruction from Obi-Wan Kenobi's spirit, still played by Sir Alec Guinness. In an emotional and near-fatal confrontation with Vader, Luke is presented with a horrific revelation and must face his destiny. Again, it's a basic story, but there is much more to that. Like the first film, it is a part of Luke Skywalker's hero's journey. For those of you who don't know, the hero's journey is the common template of stories that involve a hero who goes on an ordinary adventure, is victorious in a decisive crisis, and comes home changed or transformed. Thank you, Wikipedia.com. And this film perfectly embodies the continuation of a journey of a hero, and that totally is shown throughout several scenes in this film. Let's talk about the characters. First, the returning ones. It's safe to say that Luke Skywalker grew as a character. Now he is an appointed leader as commander of the rebels. He is also much better at using the Force as seen in the scene with the Wampa, but he is still not perfect, as shown throughout his training on Dagobah. And even though he is still not perfect, he was still able to put up a fight against Vader, but ultimately loses. That aside, he is still the perfect hero of the Star Wars trilogy, and this was just the next step before he became the powerful Jedi we know today. Wait until the next film. Princess Leia, oh wait, no, I'm sorry. General Leia is also great. Here, instead of being a damsel in distress, she actually does some cool heroic stuff. During the Battle of Bespin, or the chase down the halls, she still puts up a fight as she did on Death Star, but she leads the organization this time, as Han was not there to do that for her. And I don't mean to point out any sexist stuff. Speaking of which, while Han Solo mostly acts like he has a gigantic stick up his butt, he's still the wisecracking smuggler we all know and love. We get a little insight into Han's personal life as we meet his best friend, Lando Calrissian. However, it is shown that you cannot really trust anyone when it is revealed that Lando was a part of an arrangement of Vader to lure Luke Skywalker into a trap. This leads into Han getting tortured and then frozen into carbonite, to then be delivered to a ruthless gangster, Jabba the Hutt. So as you can see, Han Solo has more to do in this movie, and also gives more insight on him, even giving him a nemesis. More on that later. Chewbacca, C-3PO, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and R2-D2 return too, but they don't have much to do as they did in the film that preceded this one. The only one of those characters that has the most to do was Chewie, as he took part in a lot of action. Oh, did I forget to mention that R2 was more of a comedic relief? Whatever. But then, of course, we have the villains. Not only do we have Darth Vader, but we also see the main villain of the saga, Darth Sidious, also known as Emperor Palpatine, also known as the Emperor. Please ask me why there are two emperors in this picture. Sorry. Vader is now in command of the army of the Empire as the second in command of the then unseen Emperor. He is still the dark and foreboding figure from the last movie, only this time he is much more manipulative in getting into his enemies. This includes torturing Han, arresting Leia, and talking down and slicing off Luke's hand. This, of course, leads to the twist that everyone must know about. Just to warn you, there are spoilers! Once Luke is critically injured, Vader beckons Luke to join the Empire as they could bring order to the galaxy. Luke, of course, knew better than this, refused to join Vader. The latter of the two then told him that Obi-Wan never told him what happened to his father. Luke, remembering his first conversation with Obi-Wan from the first movie, told Vader that Obi-Wan told Luke that Vader killed his father. Before Vader said, "No, I am your father." And that was when it was clear to fans that Star Wars was never always predictable. As for the Emperor, he may be there for exposition dump, but this actually may be very important, as we got to see the Emperor as a manipulative villain throughout the rest of the movies, as well as a zombie. Okay, get away from that. Now it's time for the new characters. First, there's Yoda. The puppet was created by the one and only Jim Henson, aka the man behind the Muppets and Sesame Street. Ugh. And the voice was provided by the original Fozzie Bear and Grover the Monster, who was Frank Oz. Now, when I was a kid, this thing terrified me. That meant I didn't get to see how great of a character Yoda was. However, upon further viewings, I learned to get used to his design. Seeing future looks of Yoda makes me remember that this is all they had back in 1980, and I had to get used to it before I got to see his better design, which first debuted in 2002's Attack of the Clones. Now we have Lando Calrissian, played by Billy D. Williams. Like Han Solo, he is a wisecracker and handsome hunk of charm. Even though he makes some stupid decisions, he's still an awesome character that has become one of my fan favorites in the franchise. And then there's Boba Fett. Sweet, amazing Boba Fett. I don't know why, but I freaking love Boba Fett. He's a cool looking villain, and his amazing presence definitely shows. Like a certain modern piece of Star Wars media. Okay, that's for another video. Alright, that's it for the characters. Now for the effects, action, and music. The effects still use miniatures, costumes, and puppets, and they are still amazing. Even though the special edition pretty much overhauled everything to replace the original effects, I still think the original effects are still the superior effects. And I'm saying something because I love CGI effects. Now the music. The music is still composed by John Williams, and seriously, was he trying to make the audience cry? It's so. If it's really emotional score. I'm sorry. It's a really emotional score, with also the introduction to Darth Vader's iconic theme. Yeah, this movie was the debut. I heard it no times in the previous movie. We also have the mysterious music once we first see Dagobah, and also the very, very sad and bittersweet music that they play right at the end of the movie, showing that the story isn't over, but all hope is pretty much lost as of now. Now the action. The action is still amazing, even though this movie was made back in 1980. My favorites are the Wampa scene, the Battle of Hoth, the Space Slug, the duel on Dagobah, which is always the most fascinating scene of the whole movie to me back when I was a kid and still is today. The chase down the halls on Bespin, and the final lightsaber battle, which leads to the twist. So, what's my final verdict? Not only is this one of the best sequels of all time, but also one of the best movies of all time. It's got an amazing story, great characters, fantastic score, stunning effects, and thrilling action. This is Star Wars to many people, and I see why. Although this isn't my favorite, it is definitely in my top 3 favorite films in the franchise, and that is why I'm giving this a 10 out of 10. A perfect follow up to a perfect story. I just realized the past 3 reviews I've given the score of a 10 out of 10 to all actually are in my top 100 favorite movies. Don't worry, I'll throw in some variety. Not every movie that I review will get a 10 out of 10. Okay, that was filler. I'm sorry. Back to the video. Well, that's my review. What are your thoughts on Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back? Leave your thoughts in the email below. Stay tuned for the next review, which is Marvel Studios' The Incredible Hulk. With that being said, I'm Mr. CCS, this is Movie Central, and that, my friends, is a wrap. See you guys next time.